Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, no matter where you are, whenever you're watching this, welcome to Floating in Dreams. Today we are going to be doing a full face makeup look using all of my favorite drugstore makeup products. Welcome to everybody watching today's video. Thank you so very much for being here today. I am going to be doing a full face makeup look using all of my favorite drugstore products. And I'm not using anything from Essence & Catrice, save for the odd bits that were in my Shop My Stash. Because I think that doing Essence & Catrice is going to be its own video. So I'm going to do a full face of Essence & Catrice with like my favorite products from those brands. But today we are going to be talking about things like my favorites from Milani and Makeup Revolution and Maybelline and L'Oreal. Kiko I've got in here. What else do I have? Soap & Glory has some really good products. Elf and BH Cosmetics. So we've got a lot of things to chat about today. And yeah, let me just get to these products. In case you're unfamiliar with this channel and you don't know what I'm all about, then hi, welcome, my name is Maaike, I live in the Netherlands. I love doing eyeshadow palette reviews. I love trying out Essence & Catrice products, which is why I can do a separate video with just that. And I love focusing on getting the use out of my makeup, which is when I say that something is a favorite. Like some of these, I'm looking at these things, some of these have been repurchased multiple times. I have items with dents in them that I've hit pan on, and I've been using for years and that I just love. So I'm really hoping that you will enjoy this video with me, and with a lot of my full face makeup videos, I very often will still have a couple of items from my Shop My Stash that don't really fit the full face theme. But guess what? My primer that I'm going to be using today is a drugstore favorite. The setting spray I'm using is a drugstore favorite. Even mascara and brows are going to be featured here because those tend to be products that I buy from the drugstore without fail. Like I don't even have high-end favorites in many of those categories. So that's why we are really going to be doing a full face of drugstore favorites. So having bangs is all great, but I do have to make sure I keep them out of my face, that's for sure. And we're going to start things off with primer. And both of my favorite primers are actually from Milani. The eyeshadow primer from Milani is one of my all-time favorites. I have repurchased this over some like cult favorites, like the Too Faced Shadow Insurance and the Urban Decay Primer Potion in the past. And I remember when I discovered this, and with how much more affordable it is compared to those other options, I really have not looked back. I think this is my third tube or something of it, and I really like it. And as you can see, mine is getting very flat, so another well-used product. What is good to know, since I live in Europe, Milani can be quite expensive to buy, especially if you compare it to what the retail price goes for in places in the US. Milani is a brand that does have different price points in the US depending on the retailer you buy it from, but over here you pay almost double for a Milani product. So I believe this is like $7.99 from like a place like CVS, but then I buy it online here and it's nearly 14 euros, which is outrageously expensive, and it's almost twice as much. So that's perhaps good to know about something like Milani, which is why I don't feature them a lot, because is it still worth the price point? If it goes for almost twice as much, but it is still a good drugstore brand, and it's similarly priced to something over here like a L'Oreal or a Maybelline would be, because those prices just tend to be higher here anyways for makeup than they are in many places. I mean, if you go to Germany or the UK, you can very often also find makeup at less expensive price points than they are here. Because we are a small country, a small market, everything they sell here is just marked up. And then for my face primer, I'm going to be using the Milani Prime Light. And this I find is a good dupe for the MAC Strobe Cream, which is why I've kept this around, because I love the MAC Strobe Cream. It's a really, really good one. It's a nice glowy primer. And since I've got a higher coverage foundation today, I like using something like this to add a little bit more luminosity to my skin. Because I do prefer it if my makeup base is looking a bit more dewy, a bit more glowy, and this is perfect for that. Foundation wise, I thought we could go back to an old favorite. This is the L'Oreal Infallible 24-Hour FRESHWEAR. I have reviewed this and compared it to the YSL All Hours foundation. I feel they're very comparable. L'Oreal owns YSL as a brand, so there tends to be quite a lot of overlap between the two lines if you're looking for a more full YSL makeup. L'Oreal is definitely a brand to sort of keep an eye on. I don't have a lot of drugstore foundations in my makeup collection anymore. I like trying them out, but I find very often that the undertones they do and the shade selection just isn't quite right for my ultra fair skin. So if you're also a snow angel, then I'm pretty sure you understand the struggle to finding your foundation shade match in a drugstore foundation. Especially here where I live, even if a brand sells a lot of shades, like with this one, we will very often still only get a couple of shades and never the lightest ones, which some high-end brands and luxury brands also do, and then I find it even worse. But yeah, it's a bit frustrating, and with high-end brands, you can still very often go online and still have it shipped over. But with many drugstore brands, there's just not an online retail market for a lot of drugstore brands, so that can be quite frustrating sometimes. But yeah, the L'Oreal FRESHWEAR is definitely one of my favorites. I have this in 20 Ivory, and I can't wait to go back to this because it was a lovely foundation. And this just reminds me why I like this foundation so much. It just has a really nice coverage that you can build up if you'd like to. But if, like me, you just dot it around and you use a sponge to blend it out and you don't use too much product, it can still look very natural. It's a very adaptable foundation in that way that you can use for day-to-day wear, but you can also use it for more heavy coverage if you want something that's a lot more long wearing, which I love. I just had to unwrap this, but the Makeup Revolution Conceal and Define Concealer in C3 is my all-time favorite drugstore concealer. With concealer, I find that there are many more options on the market that I feel work for me. So within the concealer category, I actually have quite a few more affordable favorites that I just love and adore, and this one is still a standout product. I think that this is, again, the third or fourth tube of this that I have purchased. But in recent years, I've really discovered K-beauty brands as doing really good concealers. So I'm sort of more trying those out at the moment than I am doing like regularly available drugstore concealers. So yeah, the Makeup Revolution one is still one that I love and adore. So it had to be featured in today's video. I know that for most people this probably won't be enough coverage for them, but for me this is perfect. I don't mind if still some of my redness is coming through or if you can still see some of those dark circles. To be quite fair, the only way I can cover those dark circles if I go in with a color corrector first, and I just don't like doing that on a day-to-day basis. But I do like going in with powder, and the Kiko Radiant Fusion powder, I have compared this to the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder in Diffuse Light. I find them very similar, and this is just a stunning powder. I really enjoy using it. It is currently in my Shop My Stash, and I really enjoy it. I will, at some point in the year, perhaps do another like full face of favorite Kiko products, because I've tried quite a lot from the brand by now. So maybe towards the end of the year I can do a dedicated video to Kiko again. Who knows? And then we're moving on to blush, bronzer, and highlight. And I always start with my bronzer first. And here I wanted to go in with the Soap & Glory Solar Powder Bronzer. Now this was discontinued, but you know you love a product when you hit pan. So that's why this had to make a feature here. I could have done like other bronzers that I have, but again, for bronzer, I find that at the drugstore, the undertones aren't great for fair skin. So there's only a couple I like, and the other one I would have selected is probably a Kiko one. And I didn't want to overload you with like Kiko products. I really wanted to make sure there was a mix of brands here as well. So the Solar Powder Bronzer from Soap & Glory. I'm going to be keeping this and using it until I use it up for sure. Now for highlighter, I have a brand that is not something I can buy from, but as far as I know, Annabelle is a Canadian drugstore brand. I did a swap years ago with someone who was following my blog, and she lived in Canada and sent me this, and it's still one of my favorite highlighters till this day. This is the Perfect Glow highlighter in the shade Topaz. It looks like a white in the pen, but it has a gold flip. And I actually kept this over NARS's Albatross, which I felt was a very similar shade, but not as pretty, and the texture of this one was far better than the NARS one. And as you can see, I'm not sure, the lighting is kind of blurring it out, but this has a huge dent in. So I had this in a Shop My Stash, I think, last month. This is one that I'm sure I'll hit pan on at some point, so definitely a favorite. And you just see, it's a really nice glow, but because it has that white base, it never like leaves a cast. The next product I have for you is blush, but I'm not entirely sure if many people would count this brand as a drugstore brand. In my brain it does, because it kind of fits within the drugstore price point, and it's H&M's blushes. H&M does some lovely products in their beauty range. I did a full face of H&M Beauty last year. I can link that in the description box down below if you're interested. And one of my favorite blushes is Tawny Peach. This one is no longer available, but it's a very pretty, like mauve-y, sort of soft brown tone blush. It's really pretty. It's very neutral on, and H&M blushes are especially like one of my favorite products in their line. So I just had to feature it here. I think these retail for about 10 euros each, which is pretty okay in terms of like blushes at the drugstore, I guess. You can only find H&M Beauty in larger stores that have been selected to stock the beauty line. If you don't live near an H&M store that has the products, you can go online, because a lot of the line is also stocked in their app and the online store. And the reason why I love this so much is that you can just pile it on, you can just keep going, and it still looks nice and natural. It has a bit of a warmer undertone, but it's so pretty. I like to go in with brows next, and here I do have one product from Catrice because it's in my Shop My Stash. I don't really have a brow gel from a drugstore brand that I like, save for the Essence Make Me Brow. That's like my favorite one, so that's going to come up in a future video. But brow pencil wise, the Archery brow pencil from Soap and Glory. What shade is it in? This is in Blonde Shell, and you need to look for the one that has a spoolie on one end and the pencil on another. And I'm so stoked that I'm finally be able to use this, because I've been like hanging on to this one pencil because this is not sold online by Boots, where like the other shades are, but this one isn't. So I have to physically go to England to find this. And luckily for me, I did book myself a trip to London for the end of August the other day. So that's why I now feel that it's safe for me to start using this pencil, to use up my last Soap and Glory pencil. And then I can just only pray that this wasn't discontinued in the meantime. But yeah, this is my favorite brow product of all time. And it's just, the shade is perfect. The texture is great. I love this guy. For the eyes, I thought we could revisit some old favorites, and I'm going to do a look combining the e.l.f. Earth and Ocean and the BH Cosmetics Love in London palettes. These are older palettes that I love. These are some of my favorite drugstore eyeshadow palettes. So I think what I want to do, I definitely want to use this shade right here, which is called Underwater, which is one of the most stunning teal shades in my entire collection. I kind of keep this palette around for that one shade. No, I'm lying, because I also love the silver that's in here. So there's more to love here, but I think I want to use that and then some of the cool tone neutrals in here, because in here most of the neutrals are more like warm toned and lean more, like go better with the greens, I find, than with the blues. But this is what the Love in London looks like. And in here we get this really stunning taupe shimmer. So I definitely want to do something with that. Use perhaps this in the crease, this all over the lid, a bit of that teal on the lower lash line, and then maybe that silver in the inner corner? I don't know yet. What do you guys think? Yeah, I'm definitely going to have a bit of fun here and do this look for you. I'm going to zoom you in, and then we'll chat about how it went afterwards. So the look I created with these two palettes I think was very successful. I ended up using 2 shades from the e.l.f. palette, the Underwater. I decided to put it in the crease, actually, and in the outer V, and sort of like do half teal, half taupe on the top lash. I thought it was great. And then I used Tundra in the inner corner. It's a bit flaky when you use it with a brush, so I ended up using my fingers, which is always my preferred way to polish shimmers anyway. And then I can really press it down and you get this really nice vibrant inner corner highlight. And I love how this silver has a bit of a green undertone. I think it really ties the look together. And then we have the Love in London, where I've gone in with scone or scone. How would you pronounce this if you're from the UK? I remember that there's this whole discussion because it's based around where you're from, how you pronounce that word. But yeah, I would say scone. That's the crease shade I used, and I used it to blend everything out. It's very sort of like close to my skin tone. And then I used Prestige here, that taupey shimmer, on the inner part of my top lid. And then these 2 shades were just staring at me. So I used Tea as well as London on my lower lash line. I first went in with Tea to have sort of like a smoky outer edge on the lower lash line. And then I used that navy London to complement the rest, or like complete the rest of the look. So that's what I did for shadow, but I did do a couple of other steps as I was sort of like filming this part of the video. I was like, oh yeah, I should have told them about this yet already. Unfortunately, I forgot. Now this next brand, I don't really feel is drugstore, but they do have a drugstore price point, which is why I like H&M really. So I thought I could feature them here, which is Colourpop. The Pretty Fresh setting spray has been in my Shop My Stash for some months, and I'm really liking this. This is like one of my new favorite setting sprays. If I end up placing an order with Colourpop in the next couple of months, then I will definitely be putting a backup of this into that order because I really like it. It has a pleasant scent. It's a little sweet, coconutty, but it's not overpowering. I've tried setting sprays in the past where I was just like, that's like spraying straight up fragrance into my face. This definitely isn't. It has a really nice mister, and for how much I've used it, I'm only about halfway gone. So it's also a setting spray that you don't go through in like a heartbeat, which is the case with a lot of setting sprays I find. Very often setting sprays you can just use up very quickly, and then even if they are more affordable, if you have to repurchase a product all the time, it's still not that affordable in the end. So yeah, the Colourpop Pretty Fresh setting spray has been a great recent discovery, but we also need to mention mascara. And I think when it comes to mascara, the brand I always go to is Maybelline. Maybelline, the Falsies Lash Lift was their, like one of the last mascara releases they did over here that I felt was very successful for me. This is definitely one that I will be repurchasing. I opened this one up for this video, but this is a mascara I just want to make sure I always keep on hand. I also like a couple of L'Oreal ones, and with mascara, I really feel that the drugstore is where it's at, because drugstore mascara is just as good or sometimes even better as high-end. And since mascara is a product that you need to be very careful with because it sits so close to your eye with like bacteria growing in there, so I toss my mascara every 3 to 4 months regardless of what it still does for me. By that time, I feel they've usually dried up. Like Catrice and Essence mascaras dry up much faster than that. These have a bit more longevity, so that's why I do feel that the price point is warranted with these ones. Over here, Maybelline mascaras and also L'Oreal retail around like the 16, 17 euro mark, which is a lot more than what these go for in other countries. But yeah, to me, they're well worth it. I very often buy them on sale, like buy one, get one free sales, and Maybelline is my go-to mascara brand for sure. And finally, last but not least, and I wanted to make sure I featured as many different brands in here, and this next brand I haven't tried much from because the brand got started with lipsticks. What am I talking about? Zara. Because like H&M, Zara is a clothing retailer that also does a makeup line. Now, I bought my products a couple of years ago, and when they revamped the line, they definitely have extended it with more base products and all that. The closest Zara to me that stocks the beauty products in store is in Amsterdam, so I have seen it in real life. And at the time I felt there wasn't anything that really stood out to me, but their new foundation and concealer seem to be getting quite a bit of hype, and yet they do like 40 different shades in this foundation, so it's impossible to buy online, for me anyways. So I'm gonna have to find this in a store before I can even decide whether I might be able to buy it. But I do have one of their lipsticks, and this is one of their matte lipsticks. I'm not sure it goes with this makeup look, but for the sake of the video, we're gonna soldier on. This is Ultra Matte UM16. I believe this shade still exists and it's still the same shade. The lipstick range, they just seem to have repackaged it. It no longer comes in this really lovely navy shade. I believe now everything is white, but the shades of the actual lipsticks are still the same. So that's maybe good to know. So yes, Zara lipstick, they are lovely, as you will see, very pigmented. These do have a very strong scent, which is why I ended up decluttering the other shades I had, because this was the only shade that truly stood out to me, and this is a lovely orange toned red. So this lipstick is a great lipstick. It has great pigmentation, great longevity. You do need to make sure that you let it sit for about 30 minutes or so before you eat or drink anything, but that's an experience I have with every lipstick I've ever tried. If you're looking for a high impact lipstick at a drugstore price point, then Zara is definitely a line to be looking out for. H&M does lovely lipsticks too, by the way. Their cream formula is really good, and they do a really pretty mauve tone nude in their matte range called London Season. So those lines are really good too. I love Maybelline for lipsticks. I still have a couple of my OG ones. And that new, well, it's not that new anymore, but the Milani line that I believe they're called the Fetish lipsticks, those look stunning as well. They do a cream formula and a matte, and I'm very intrigued to just buy the entire line and see if I can do a lip swatch video with that. So yeah, lots of lipsticks, because drugstore lipsticks are really, really good ones. Like this is the one I wanted to show you, just to chuck in another brand and to show you that as well. So I hope this video was helpful if you're looking for some recommendations when it comes to drugstore products. As I've mentioned, a lot of these are long-time favorites in my makeup routine, which is why these are still around. These have survived multiple declutters. These are products I like going back to from time to time. See that Soap and Glory bronzer. So yeah, I love a good drugstore product, but they can be hit and miss. So that's why I hope this video can help you out when it comes to finding some good products at the drugstore. And I need to take my hair down. So those were all of the recommendations that I wanted to share with you when it comes to a full face of drugstore makeup. I know that drugstore makeup can be quite hit or miss, but these are the products that have stood out to me over time. And these are my true hardcore favorites. These products have survived multiple declutters. I've hit pan on some of them, and a lot of these have been repurchased as well. So that's how you know that it's truly one of your favorite products. And I know that drugstore products can be, it can be difficult to find the good ones, and these are the good ones according to me. So if you would like to share your favorite drugstore products, then definitely leave a comment down below. I would love to hear from you. Thumbs up the video if you'd like to help this video out and pushing it out there, that will be good. And if you would like to subscribe to the channel and you want more recommendations for snow angel-like skin, then please subscribe to the channel, because I do regular videos where I review products coming from my fair skin tone perspective. And I do multiple videos a week, so there's lots more coming your way. So thank you very much for being here right now. Have a great day. I hope to see you in my next video. Bye-bye.